My name is Jordan Brill, and I tattoo at Safe House Tattoo in Nashville, Tennessee, USA. My first introduction into tattooing is actually one of my earliest memories, asking my mother about her father's tattoos. So he had a couple of traditional tattoos. He had an anchor. He had love tattooed on his knuckles. And that just inspired me. I love the concept of, it's a picture that you can't take off your skin. And I just knew from a very early age, I didn't care if it was cool to other people or if it was trending. I just knew I wanted to be covered in tattoos. From a very young age, art was my main hobby. Didn't really watch much television, just a lot of coloring and drawing. Very illustrative, a lot of comics and cartoons and stuff. When I got out of high school, I went to school for Mandarin language. Didn't finish that degree. Then I decided to go to school for music recording. Didn't finish that degree. Then eventually I wound up going to culinary school in New York City, and that's when I really got heavily tattooed. So I was on track. I did become a chef in the New York City restaurant business, but that whole time I was thinking, man, I think tattooing would be a lot better for my personality and such. I would describe my tattoo style as Victorian American traditional with a strong influence from 1970s folk art. I developed that just from thinking about more so what I like and what first drew me to traditional tattoos in the first place, being very strong. I'm trying to use less white and skin breaks and stuff like that make it seem more contemporary. I just want it to be fun, but still fit within the parameters of a long-lasting tattoo. I feel that I am still evolving my style. One thing that really was an epiphany for me is realizing that I don't think it's a very good idea to try and make your style appealing to everybody. I'd just rather be very true to who I am and what I like. And although there's less people out there that have the exact same things that they dig as I do, at least it'll be a more loyal, true clientele, which allows me to really take some risks in the drawing process and have fun with it and have a client who understands that as well. These days, drawing and painting are paramount to my tattoo process. I try and do as much planning on the front end as humanly possible and make sure that every tattoo I do has maximum coolness. So I plan out my colors and shading most of the time, and painting is a way of doing that. And that also means kind of just beating every drawing into the ground and making sure it's as cool as I can possibly make it, and that makes a happier clientele as well. And then I'm getting better with every tattoo, I feel. There are some particular artists that stand out to me and art movements. A lot of the stuff that I try and influence my tattoos is not tattoo stuff at all. I read a lot of science fiction, a lot of it, vintage. And there's this prominent artist, Peter Hars, and he did a really cool airbrush kind of vibe. And so I think about how I can take that, the contrast of those covers and the color blending, and incorporate that into a tattoo. It just feels very fun, very greater than itself in meaning. And also, the style art is just about the colors and the contrast. It has very little to do with the subject matter. So at this point in my career, I think that these designs can be greater than themselves. It doesn't matter that it's a snake or it's a rose necessarily, although that's very cool. It's more about what's the vibe you get when you look at it. Is it fun to look at? Do you smile when you look at it? Does it make you feel like you've traveled to a different time period for a second? That's my goal. The relationship between my clientele and I would describe as more symbiotic than anything. It greatly impacts the way that I live my life and the way that I approach my work life. What I expect of my clientele is to be flexible, allow me to take a lot of risks in the designing process, and to show me some trust, show me some faith. And what they get is me spending tons of time on their design, whether it's something big or small. I want them to be super stoked on their tattoo. Money is temporary and you can't take it with you, but you also need it to live in this day and age. So I just charge appropriately for that amount of work, and I think everybody wins in that situation. My clientele are stoked, and I have developed a very loyal clientele in a very short amount of time living here in Nashville. Man, I tell you, the biggest change in the tattoo business since I started working, and it's on both sides. It's on the artist side and it's on the clientele side. Everyone feels very entitled, and it's really tough, man. An 18-year-old kid, when I first started tattooing, 18-year-old kids were bulletproof. They needed to have that chest piece. They needed to get it in one shot. They didn't care how bad it hurt. They didn't care how much money it cost. Now they barely sit through the outline, and they're complaining, and they don't want to be away from their phone for too long. Just lack of respect, I think, on both sides. I think the artist looks at the client as just a form of money making sometimes, and I think that the client just comes to an artist, basically trying to strong arm them into getting the tattoo that they want, rather than focusing on, does this artist even offer the kind of work, the kind of style that I'm really going for? So I would like for that to change. I hear a lot of dudes say that they want, to make tattooing scary again. I don't know about that, man. I really try and be approachable. I try and be kind, but sometimes the kindest thing you can do to somebody is tell them to shut up, put their phone down, and sit still so you can do a really good job. And at the end, we hug, we shake hands, we're cool, and they got the tattoo that they wanted. My relationship with coil machines has been from the very beginning. I remember some of the first machines I owned were ones that I built out of a kit that contained no instructions. The coils were unwired. I remember having to go to the hardware store, get some solder, only to realize that I don't have a soldering iron. So the first couple machines that I built, I actually melted the solder with a cigarette lighter, and I made it happen. And looking back, they probably ran like crap, but I have kept some of those and rebuilt them time and time again, and now I try and use them as daily drivers, 8 years later. As far as what I've grown accustomed to, I like cutback liners. That's what I, assemble for myself most of the time, and then shaders, because I tattoo mostly with color and mostly with powder pigment. I prefer something with a longer throw, maybe on the faster side, because I like to tattoo super duper fast. what tattooing means to me now, I mean, it's all that I think about. It's all that I spend my money on. It's my life. And right now there's this influx of people being very curious about the tattoo business and not knowing much about it. They don't have tattoos, but they don't understand the kind of life that they're signing up for. So a lot of times, I think about the old timers when I was first getting tattooed, telling you to piss off if, you asked any questions about tattooing, and that's fine. I respect that, and I probably lean more on that side. But I'm also, I try and be a nice, approachable guy, but sometimes being real is the nicest thing you can do to somebody. So I love tattooing, but I tell people you have to be very familiar with tattooing and know how much work it is to know if you even like it or not, because this is a tough life, man. You could be a graphic designer, get yourself an iPad and an Apple Pencil, and you could work in your pajamas all day and live in a tiny house in the middle of nowhere or something, but that's not tattooing. It's a 7-day-a-week job, especially if you want to do a good job, which is what I'm trying to do. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of dedication and frustration, and it's basically like slamming your finger in the door over and over again, but I love it. I've always been drawn to the problem-solving nature of whether it be the design or messing with machines or pigments. It's the problem-solving nature is what keeps me coming back to it. The fact that it is kind of mysterious, it makes it even more attractive to me. So it's the only thing I can think about, and all I can say is that tattooing is my life and will forever remain my life. I just try to make sure that it doesn't come first before family and loved ones in my life. As far as my particular plans for the future, I just want to hunker down and always, I want to get better at tattooing. I want to get better at drawing and painting. And that's the reward in itself, because if you're in this business to make money and retire, well, you're going to be very disappointed, I think, But I would like to just keep learning. What that looks like for me is keeping in contact, keep getting tattooed, buying machines from people that I respect, and just continuing to learn, only seeking out advice and knowledge from people that I truly respect. I don't want too many voices in the crowd. I plan to travel a lot so that I can be one-on-one with some of these peers. And I think with traveling builds some kind of clientele, but I'm not trying to travel the country full-time or anything like that. I'd rather just get to know some consistent clientele and help them end up with the sickest bodysuit that they want to pay for, and everybody's going to be happy. I'm just going to keep here in Nashville, Tennessee for now, for the time being, and keep tattooing and keep getting better and kind of just keep looking at what's in front of me, and that's all I can judge myself against, I guess, is where I was yesterday. I'm trying to get better with every tattoo.